Joined now by Senator Kamala Harris. Thank you for making time. I know you've been voting today, so we've been awaiting what you wanted to say. First of all, tell me what you think should happen next as far as the Trump administration is concerned with the family separation policy.
Well, they need to end this policy. It is unconscionable, it is immoral, it is wrong, and it is unnecessary. And I think that there is no question that it has become very evident to many, many people who've been watching the images that this is not reflective of who we are as a country. And it's got to stop, Ari. It's just got to stop. Full stop. It's got to stop.
What do you think Secretary Nielsen should do at this point?
I think she should resign. I think she should resign. I think she is not equipped, based on her conduct, based on the procedures and the policies that she is promulgating. I don't think she is equipped to do the job the way that it needs to be done, which is that there should be values that are at play that are consistent with who we say we are as Americans. The government should be in the business of keeping families together, not tearing families apart, and not tearing children from their parents. Cases that we've heard of a child being breastfed and taken from their mother. The horrible case of this father, right before Father's Day, who ended up committing suicide after his toddler was taken from him. This is unnecessary. It is something the administration visited upon themselves, and they need to end it. And she has not had the courage or the ability to stand up and say, you know what, I have the discretion, and I'm going to exercise discretion in the right way that is reflective of the values of who we are as Americans. She needs to go.
When she says, as she repeated today from the White House podium, there's no family separation policy and there's no abuse of the rights of children, is she lying?
I have asked these questions. I've been asking these questions of the secretaries, both she and John Kelly, and the acting secretary, Duke, since March of last year. And actually, Duke, who was acting at one moment, she said that they openly had been discussing this policy of separating these families and separating these children from the parents. And there have been countless people from the administration who have admitted that the purpose, apparently, of separating these families is to create deterrence against other immigrants coming to our shores. So clearly there is a policy that is at play, and she might be mixing words, but there is a very clear intent, and they are carrying out the intent, which is to separate these families and put these children in cages.
I want to play for you this audio that's leaked just recently, late today, courtesy of ProPublica. NBC has not independently verified it, but you've probably heard about it. We played it at the top of our broadcast. It is difficult to listen to, but I wanted to get your response. Take a listen. And Senator, since I know that you're on an earpiece and you join us from voting, I'll just read some of it on the translation. It's children screaming for their parents, saying, asking for their father for their mother, saying mommy. Then a Border Patrol agent identified by ProPublica says, well, this is a, quote, orchestra here. We're only missing a conductor. And another child then pleading, when could my aunt come and pick me up? I have the number memorized, not even yet understanding what's being done to them. Your response to this being what the policy looks like?
I mean, it's heartbreaking, Ari. It's heartbreaking. And it's unnecessary. It's really unconscionable. The American Medical Association, the Academy of Physicians and Pediatricians have all looked specifically at what's happening with these children being separated from their parents and have documented and have projected potentially lifelong trauma being caused to these children. They are innocent. They're innocent and they're being traumatized. Anyone who has parented a child or been a child My God. The idea that we would be removing these babies from their parents, and it's not necessary. Ari, that's the thing that is so outrageous and maybe even compelling about this. It's not necessary. The law does not require it, and certainly ethics and morals don't require it. Why are they doing it? You know why they're doing it? Because it is exactly what they told us they would do. You know, Maya Angelou said that years ago. People tell you who they are. Listen the first time. They told us months ago that this would be a policy that they would pursue to create a disincentive, a deterrent for these folks and these families to come to our border, many of whom are seeking asylum, many of whom are fleeing the murder capitals of the world. Murder capitals of the world. And this is what we're doing. This is not reflective of who we are as a country. And it has got to stop. It really has to stop. And they've got to stop playing politics with this issue, Ari. They've got to, at some point, everybody has to say, you know what, I'm going to draw a line somewhere, and this is where I'm going to draw the line.
Well, and it seems, yes, I do, and it seems some people are doing that. I know tonight you're calling, as you just did on our air, in no uncertain terms, for the resignation of the DHS secretary. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.